See. Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to Civic Heritage and Events Committee on the 5th of January, and may I wish everyone a Happy New Year. I know it's the 5th, but I think we can all wish people a Happy New Year until the end of this month. So item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Charles?
I have not personally received any, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Declarations of interest of items on the agenda. Do I have any declarations of interest? No? Oh, Councillor Alcock.
Yes, when it comes to discussing civic events, including the Christmas light switch on, I do sit on the Christmas lights committee.
And indeed I do as well. To receive written requests for dispensation for disclosable pecuniary interest, I haven't received any, and therefore to grant any request for dispensation as appropriate, I don't need to do that. Public participation, have we been notified of any members of the public that wish to speak? I don't think so, I can't see anyone here. Item 6, to approve the draft open minutes of the meeting of the Mayoral Civic Ceremonial and Events Committee held on the 3rd of November 2020. Have you all read your minutes? And can I have somebody to approve them, please? And a seconder, Councillor Cleave, and a seconder, Councillor Alcock. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. To approve the draft open notes of the website, social media and newsletter subcommittee held on the 4th of December. Who is the chair of that committee? No? Okay. Is that you, Cole? Would you like to propose the draft minutes?
Yes, I'd like to present the notes from the website and social media panel from the meeting 4th of December for approval, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to say anything about those notes? Councillor Cleave, you had your hand up.
Sorry, I was just going to second them as I said.
Okay, who would like to second that? That's Councillor Cleave. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 8, to approve the confidential draft open minutes of the meetings of the Market Forum held on the 27th of November and the 7th of December. Who is going to propose those confidential draft open minutes? Is that you, Councillor Taylor? Thank you, if you wouldn't mind.
I would like to propose the confidential draft minutes of the meetings of the Market Forum held on the 27th of November and the 7th of December 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Can't see any hands raised at the moment. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fradgley, thank you. Any questions on those minutes? Councillor, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, can I just check that now that we're in lockdown, that the proposed reinstallation of the market from end of January is currently on hold, that they won't go ahead whilst we're in lockdown?
I think, Councillor Taylor, you need to answer that.
As far as I'm aware, Mr. Mayor, the notification that I've received from LSD is all of the markets that they currently operate with are at this moment suspended until further notice.
Does that include, may I ask the question, does that include the Friday Rother Street Market?
The Friday Rother Street Market is purely organised. District Council provide the space. LSD have nothing to do with the operational site, and there will be a limited amount of traders who will operate there as they did through the last lockdown with essential items.
Yeah, it'll be food products only, won't it?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions on that? So do I have approval of that? I did. Yes, I did get approval. Thank you very much. Let's go on now to the town clerk's open report. Item 1, civic events 2021. We are here to note the report. Have you all read the report? Yeah. Do I have any queries on the report at all? Any questions? Councillor Curtis.
Yes, just a sort of a couple of thoughts on it, really. I prefer to avoid, I mean, this is just purely a personal view, but I think if we can avoid terms like depressing, which are very subjective, it has been indeed a challenging year, but there are opportunities that the current pandemic creates as well. And I think without wishing to minimize the challenges that face us, and being ridiculously optimistic, I think avoiding words like depressing, it doesn't make very encouraging reading, to be honest. And just can I just ask about the idea of the flagpoles being maintained for longer? One note in there was that there would be a concern over flagpole damage, potential flagpole damage by vehicles. I've got a query on that, really. Would that be covered by insurance? And I think this would be a great opportunity to actually dress the town. I was in Orléans last summer, and they have fantastic flags all the way down the main town high street, and it looks fantastic. So I think it's a time to look forward, create, creative possibilities, and be positive. That's my just general thought.
Okay, civic officer, do you have a comment on that, or would you refer to the town clerk?
The only comment I would make, Madam Chairman, is that we were considering that the safest place to put the flagpoles was on the central reservation down the centre of Bridge Street, which obviously doesn't go right to the bottom, but there are clearly implications that will have to be picked up by somebody if for the birthday weekend they're up for a couple of weeks and they're taken down and there are no planning issues. But I believe if something is in place for more than, I will stand corrected, but 20 or 21 days, you have to have planning permission to leave it there. And there is no doubt that we have been incredibly fortunate in the past where on the occasions there has been damage and poles have been snapped off. The last occasion being one of the middle ones, but below the central reservation, which took out a very expensive motor car and narrowly missed a group of children. And it was all caused by a taxi driver doing a U-turn between the poles.
Correct.
So clearly there is an issue. They have been battered with delivery vans trying to reverse in Henley Street and all sorts of things. And quite honestly, I think if they were to stay up for quite a long time, this is something our insurance would have to be obviously very much involved with. And I suspect the premium for doing so would be considerably more than it is for the birthday itself.
Thank you, Charles. Mr. Mayor.
I'm not sure I've got anything to add here.
You had your hand up, but
no, sorry. I've just updated my Zoom, and I've got the functionalities changed, so I've got my hand up by mistake. It's not up anymore, is it? Or was it Robbie Bridgeland? Sorry.
Councillor Fradgley, I think.
Okay, Councillor Alcock. I have the list. Yeah.
Madam Chair. Yeah, regarding this, it's so difficult to obviously look into the future. They're talking that March is going to be the earliest that any of the lockdown regulations are lifted. I would be concerned about doing anything to dress the town before June, July time. I think I cannot see that we hit March and they go, whoopee, as in everything's done, everyone goes back to normal, let's invite the crowds in, let's have big parades, let's do everything. I cannot see that happening until later on in the summer, if at all. A civic officer would probably know. You say, sorry, did you say we could have the flagpoles up for 28 days?
21 days.
21.
Well, I must, the rider to that is I may be wrong on the time, but there is a fairly restrictive time frame which you can do things. It came up some years ago when we wanted to put a banner on the front of the town hall, and we were suitably ticked off for leaving it up longer than we should have done. So there is, I can check with the planning authority, or maybe Councillor Fradgley could ask her husband when she next sees him, but I think there is a fairly restricted period after which time it needs to be.
I would like to suggest that we look at the possibility of flagpoles going up to dress the town for the last 3 weeks in August.
Yes, I have. I was going to come up with something for Heritage Open Days. Can we discuss that? Because I think we can do something along that same period of time.
Yes,
Let's just move on. I'm going to move on to Councillor Voss, then Councillor Fradgley.
I agree with David, Councillor Curtis, and I think we should forget about the flagpoles completely. We've already got a string of lights going across Bridge Street, going across High Street. You see in a lot of European towns and in some English towns, flags hanging down on the vertical. What about if we change this entirely and decorate the town without flagpoles? Could we consider having flags hanging? If you imagine now we've got the Christmas lights hanging down in place with that. Now, I accept that that might mean a different level of work requirement, but I doubt that there can be much in the way of planning. How long are the Christmas lights up for? 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? I don't know. 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be a problem, is it? If we had them up prior to the birthday, post the birthday, we could have them earlier, later. But that could be quite an interesting, and I'm not a terribly artistic person.
Councillor Voss, are you talking about bunting?
No, I'm talking about flags. That's why I said flags.
Okay.
So if we can think about the flags hanging down vertically, unlikely to be more than the depth of the lights, which go down quite a long way, that might be quite an impressive, and it's not going to hit if you're thinking of top of buses or anything like that, because the lights don't. That could be quite an impressive way of doing it. Removes entirely the issue of the poles going up, and probably could be quite relatively easily done up and down without too much, because those points of support for the strings of lights, they have to be pretty solid, don't they? And they're already there. So could we think about doing this in a different way? Because I think Councillor Curtis is right. Whilst we may be just coming out of lockdown, well, you surprised at that, Councillor Curtis. We might just be coming out of lockdown. We might be at the point where we're starting to open the town up again, and it could be quite snappy, interesting and attractive. So I think we may be, whilst we can't hold the full parade, can't go the whole hog because arranging that and preempting all the problems, we could be planning to do something to decorate the town, and not bunting, no, the full flags.
Okay. Councillor Fradgley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, the flagpoles that go onto the slots on the central reservation are quite safe. They're not actually regularly bumped into, and they will have Stratford in Bloom planters in between them. So I can't see any reason why we couldn't keep up those flags and actually have flags hanging from those. The flagpole's actually in use. The other thing is about the planning. We do have a town that's in desperate need of actually reinventing itself to some extent. And I think we should actually talk to the district council about a partnership agreement to actually allow these flags to stay up. And I think these flags should be going up for the morale, not only of visitors, but of the people who live here. And I know last year we had a lot of comments from residents that they are very pleased to see that Stratford in Bloom kept the plants going in the centre of town. They might be hard pressed this year to fill as many baskets as they did last year. So I think anything that we can actually put together to make the centre of the town lively for residents and visitors would be worthwhile.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley. May I just go back to something that Councillor Alcock brought up? Charles and I and Victoria Flynn had a meeting a while before Christmas about the budget, and we thought it was a very good idea to perhaps put some money. I know the budget is next on the agenda, but to put some money to perhaps thinking about the Heritage Weekend in September. And I think September is maybe a very, very good time, if you like, to open up the town in a big way. It just may fall in the nicest possible way, with, you know, hopefully a large majority of us being vaccinated. COVID restrictions hopefully have been lifted to a certain degree. And we can perhaps join in with the RSC and the SBT and make a huge welcome to our town. Our town is open. We welcome you, and have flags and bunting. And that's why I just thought, I mean, this may come earlier. This whole thing may come earlier. But, you know, let's not count our chickens. I just thought it would coincide beautifully with Heritage, and bring in hopefully visitors that can walk the theatre, can walk the Shakespeare birthplace houses, and can walk the town hall and look at all the lovely heritage stuff we have. I'm going to go to Councillor Voss and then Councillor Cleeve.
I put my blue hand up too.
I do beg your pardon, Councillor.
I don't think either of these two things have to be one or the other. I think it's possible to do both. I would suggest that by the time we get round to April, there's every likelihood, although, you know, we're not all going to be vaccinated, but I would suggest shops and possibly even restaurants will be reopened again. If not, you know, to quote the Dad's Army, we're doomed. So I think at that point, we can't ignore the fact that if we don't prepare to do something, i.e. decorate the town as at least some kind of an indication that we're open, we will be seen as just being closed. So what I would think would be a good idea is to do something which would reflect where we may well be, possibly open, but certainly, you know, holding some kind of birthday celebration, and the heritage by all means. I don't think they are singular, it's either or. I think we should do both. And if we're worried about the flagpoles, then we need to come up with an alternative, possibly hanging the flags, whatever, but we need to put something into it, because otherwise we are going to be seen as a town that's just sitting and waiting, and that's not good. So I would certainly recommend doing something in and around April, even at a reduced scale level.
Okay, Councillor Fraggy, then Councillor Cleeve.
Thank you. I think Heritage Day is an opportunity, but I agree with Councillor Voss that we need to keep something going throughout the whole of the year. But I think there are probably points of extra celebration, and I do think Heritage Day is, we might actually be much more free hopefully by that time. Heritage Day does have, if we do participate in it formally, it does have national dimensions as well. It's advertised throughout the whole of the country, and that might be something that we might look at. I don't know what the costs are, but we did that in the first 3 or 4 years that we actually did it. And you get people coming in as Heritage Day junkies who actually really go out to do this. And just the other thing before I finish is, on those first couple of days, times that we did it, we produced a little map, a little coloured map that actually noted on all places of interest and gave that out to people so they could actually walk around the town and actually see the heritage places. You could think about adapting that as something to give to residents and visitors about heritage sites and cafes.
I
Just
agree.
to make sure that people know where places are open. Yeah.
Councillor Cleeve.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just looking up the dates for Heritage Open Days. That is September, isn't it?
First weekend in September.
It is the first weekend. And obviously this is if we are open for business, and as you said, we've got vaccinations under control and everything. I would personally think, because obviously by September schools have gone back, so maybe we should look at the late August bank holiday as a start of those festivities and roll it into Heritage Week. As opposed to waiting until September, because we do want to, obviously, we want to keep people safe. So if we're still in this pandemic, then it won't go ahead. But I would say if we are safe to open up, then we should at least look at the late August bank holiday weekend.
I would agree with that. I would endorse that as well. And I think we can, you know, I mean, time is, you know, who knows what's going to happen. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm much more pessimistic than Councillor Voss was about when we might be reopening. Can I just ask the civic officer just to clarify what the current plans are for Shakespeare's birthday? Because we were talking about a virtual event and that it wouldn't be possible to hold any sort of parade or anything. And I just, it's sort of blurring the edges now and looking to look for other options just in case we might be open.
The only
in the report,
Mr.
Mr. Mayor, it gives an idea of sorry, Charles, it gives an idea of potential things that can happen around Shakespeare's birthday. Is that what you were going to say, Charles?
I was. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was only going to say the only thing that would be slightly different, I just put forward the idea that maybe this year, because it's different, we could go back to doing it actually on the 23rd of April, which might give us a little bit more leverage in the sense of making a big thing of the birthday and St. George's Day and the rest. But as far as content, no actual discussions have taken place. So we're open to guidance from yourselves of the sort of things. If you feel that the virtual idea is a good one, we'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Town Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When Charles says no discussions have taken place, they formal discussions haven't taken place, but sort of off the record emails and communication with the RSC, for example, and also the Birthplace Trust have taken place, which is why we were able to sort of put together a preliminary programme following the success of Remembrance, where we managed to do it and it worked very well remotely. So I would obviously agree that we must celebrate in some way, even if we are as restricted as we are now, Shakespeare's birthday celebrations. We are Stratford-upon-Avon. And I think that the only way forward, bearing in mind that when Charles and I were trying to organise Remembrance, we had 9 different changes before we finally got there. And I would say to this committee, it's a bit like the Queen today has cancelled all her garden parties because they've said it's so difficult to plan. And we are planning, we have already planned. But in terms of, you know, whether it's June or Tuesday, we just are in limbo at the moment. But I certainly think what we've proposed to you is something that we can deliver.
Thank you, Sarah. So looking at that list and bearing in mind what Charles said, do we think it would be a good idea to hold it on the actual day, which is a Friday? Or do you think we should hold it on the Saturday as we have done in the past? I'd like to know your opinions. Councillor Cleave.
I think Friday, actually the 23rd, is a good idea, because if we are still in some form of lockdown or tiers back to a lower tier system, while it would be nice to have people coming to town, we don't want to encourage people, if we're still, say, in tier 3 or tier 4, too many people coming. So having it on a Friday might restrict it a little bit, but it's still there. And people can come and look on the Saturday if they want. The flagpoles will be up, but it might stop some people coming who might just come for the jolly when they shouldn't be. That's just a personal opinion. You know, if we're out of the tiers or we've gone into tier 1 or anything like that, that's brilliant, that's fantastic. But I would, at this stage, I would be concerned about putting something on, even a scaled down one on a Saturday that might attract people that potentially shouldn't be travelling into the area.
I think that's a very good thought. Councillor Alcock.
Yeah, I do agree with that. If we are doing it virtually, then actually I think we ought to keep it to the Saturday, just for the people who are working. And you know, children are still home doing some sort of schooling work apparently, when you can figure it out. but keeping it to the Saturday for the people who usually work during the week, so that they can enjoy a virtual ceremony. But if it's not going to be virtual, then yes, I agree with Councillor Cleave about the Friday. But we've got to make sure we are inclusive to people in Stratford.
Right, well, the list there, if I might just read them. So a short and focused flag unfurling ceremony with flagpoles positioned along the length of the raised central reservation in Bridge Street. Do we agree that we will put those flagpoles on Bridge Street on the central reservation? Yes? Okay. Mr. Shakespeare leaving the birthplace to witness a programme of readings from the garden of the birthplace and other appropriate locations within the town. This will be pre-recorded, so it'll be virtual. So does that take place on the Friday, or will that be filmed before the day anyway? How does that work? Sarah?
Yes, yeah, I anticipate that it will be filmed in readiness for the birthday celebrations. And in response to Councillor Alcock, if it is going to be virtual, it will be on YouTube and all the social medias. So actually, in terms of what day people watch it on is entirely up to them.
So we could do both.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the laying of the floral tributes at the grave. I mean, that doesn't have to be virtual. I mean, the mayor and the mayoress can do that on the actual day. And again, I agree with Councillor Cleave. It's probably better it's done on the actual day so that we don't encourage crowds. What do people feel about that? Would you say that's... Yes, Councillor Fradgley.
It could be a mix of virtual and real, but I think filming the laying of the flowers ought to be part of the virtual presentation as well, because that's what we normally do. So we should do a full-on terrific virtual that we can work on now and take elements out of that for actuality if we're allowed to do it. So you run the two side by side.
Is that possible, Sarah, to film it live, so to speak?
Yes, I think I agree. I think there can be a mix. We've also got a lot of photographs of what has happened in the past. So it's going to be a question. Charles and I have scheduled a meeting with Dudley so that we can actually discuss what can be done mutually, virtually, and what can be done live, and then link it together so that you see I don't think for the very best will in the world there'll be the sort of floral tributes that we've had in the past. No. And I think it's very important that we do see the mayor and mayoress laying their or giving their wreath to the celebrations, but it would be rather lovely to actually see on film, if you're watching it, some of the wonderful displays of flowers that we've seen in the past, including the 450th anniversary, which was spectacular. We want to make it more than just here's a sonnet here and a what's it there. We can actually do a compilation and make it rather lovely, I think.
And also to have the music, all the way through from the RSC musicians and the Choir of Holy Trinity, I think it's just lovely, because that presumably can't be live. I mean, it may be by Easter, it may be that choirs are allowed in churches. Who knows? It's all a...
Choirs are allowed in churches. Choirs are allowed in churches. Oh, right. It's the congregation that can't sing.
Okay, so that would be rather nice to actually film the choir singing, wouldn't it? Are there any other things that you think we might be able to? I mean, I know we've got time and we've got a couple of meetings before the birthday celebrations, but are any other thoughts on what you think we could do for the birthday celebrations? Councillor Fradgley.
Can we do some kind of filming of a cradle to grave walk of the significant houses along the way? Because in the past that's been part of what we've tried to do, and it's always been very difficult because we've got too many people to actually shift around the town. But with this, it could be quite a speedy but interesting cradle to grave walk.
Could that be done with the mayor and the mayoress filmed walking from cradle to grave, literally?
I'm quite happy to walk anywhere. I'm free on the Friday and the Saturday, and on lots of weeks in advance. So any filming that involves me will not be a problem.
I think that's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest something to do with cradle to grave as well. Also, I think businesses get involved in decorating much for the? I know obviously the Birthplace Trust do, whether through Councillor Taylor through Stratford, we could maybe put some suggestions that the shops get involved in the same way that they had the advent calendar with the Find the Gingerbread. Maybe we could do something along those lines, because I know people did enjoy the advent calendar trail. Whether there's something
That's a very good idea. Councillor Taylor, what would you be able to bring that
certainly
up?
I think that's a very good idea, to be quite honest. I can't remember any previous year where any of the businesses have actually sort of decorated windows as such, but I think it's a very good idea, Councillor Cleave. I'll speak to Joe Baccaday tomorrow. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Sarah.
In the past, shops have actually taken part. There have been window competitions, and it used to be quite normal for shops in Stratford-upon-Avon to dress their shop windows in yellow and in gold and black. It has sort of died a death, so I think if it can be rejuvenated, it would be good. But it has happened in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley.
I believe one year, did we not do some birthday cakes in shops? So shops were encouraged to make little cupcakes with candles and birthday cakes. So the cafes could actually sort of celebrate the birthday with birthday cakes.
Lovely.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Charles.
Yeah, I think, wasn't it, Sarah, the college that made them?
Yes, it wasn't the 450th, was it? It was the one before, wasn't it?
It was. We were celebrating, I think, the whatever of his birth rather than his death.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was the 450th of his birth, because it was the 400th of his death.
Yeah.
And I think, was there not quite a long discussion? People did originally say, oh, you make 2 dozen and I'll make 2 dozen. But I think in the end, because of hygiene rules and regulations, I think the college did it.
Yeah, I think so. And wasn't that the year that we had the huge, great birthday cake for the first time?
That's right. Yes, we did.
We
had
the cake.
Yeah. Yes.
Could I just follow that up, Chair, by saying, could we actually put it to the businesses in the town that they actually make the cakes and sell them, and it's their project to join in with the celebrations if we're in a position to do that?
Yeah, I think that can be discussed. Yeah. Councillor Taylor, you'll take that on, will you? Thank you. So just to add to that list, we've suggested the mayor and mayoress walking from cradle to grave and having that filmed. We've suggested shop decorating, cakes, etc. On the day. If anyone comes up with anything else, please let us know. But Victoria Flynn.
Just thinking, actually last year the Willows, they did a virtual procession with photographs of the children at the school. I'm just wondering whether you invited all the school just to have a selection of children from each school in Stratford holding a posy just to represent the school, and have a virtual of each, I don't know, a photograph of about 5 children from each school, and you could just do almost like a virtual parade with children. Lovely
idea. I think that's an excellent idea. Can that be put to the list? Councillor Mackenzie.
I was just wondering, I see you've got the RSE involved, and if you're doing a walk cradle to grave, I wondered if at each point a short reading from Shakespeare, which might be appropriate to that aspect of his life, could be read. There are lots of short readings I can think of. I don't know Sarah, if that's the sort of thing the RSC could provide us with.
Well, that was the sort of thing I envisaged, Councillor, that it wasn't just one here and one there. As we go through the cradle, the whole idea is the cradle to the grave. That is what the Shakespeare birthday celebrations are all about. So it was a question of who we will get involved and what we will do with them. But these are really great ideas that we can incorporate. But I think that's a very good idea, because rather than a long piece that actually, unless you're really Shakespeare mad, you might lose the attention, it's short and snappy. And I think that's, filming is all short and snappy, isn't it, really? That's what it's all about.
I think that's an excellent idea. May I just, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so just say, if we're doing readings as we're going, can I ask for an actor from the RSC to accompany me? Otherwise you'll have my adoring dulcet tones sort of lots of places.
I did mean that. I meant an actor, maybe.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. Just going down the report. So in light of plans for a virtual celebration, so there won't be any cost of security, traffic management and first aid. Sarah, in your opinion, would it be safe enough to wing it, so to speak, with the mayor and mayoress walking from cradle to grave with a camera? Somebody holding a camera?
Yes, especially if we do it sooner rather than later, because there's very, very few people around. Charles and I need to get on to Dudley to discuss, what we needed was tonight. I also had an email today from Advent Communications, who is our publicity agent that we've used now for a while, and they're very good. And they are actually already getting inquiries about what we are all doing for the birthday celebrations. So I'll need to get back to him today, because I told him I've got a meeting tonight. I'll be able to discuss it tomorrow. So things, the birthday always starts in January for us, big time, and nothing's changed really. It's just we're going to have to do it very, very differently to what we've done before.
Okay, so just that the NB bit on the report, I mean, obviously we don't know what we can do, we don't know how much things are going to cost, but we'll talk about that further on in the next agenda item. Can we just move on to decorating the town? We have agreed for the flagpoles to go down the centre. Decorating the town, that's why I brought up the bunting aspect. We do have bunting. We have quite a bit of bunting, don't we? I just love the idea of bunting. I think we need to time the bunting, because we need to. Do we have any thoughts on when we put the bunting out, or is it just a kind of last minute, or we're all open for business type thing? What do you think, Councillor Alcock?
I agree with you, Kate. I do love bunting as well. And actually think of everything we've got available to us in the town. We have bunting, we have strings of lights, we have flags. What we don't have is any idea of when we can use all these things. Can I suggest, when it comes to the idea of decorating the town, our next meeting is in March. Now, with any luck, we'll have a better idea then about when we could look at doing this, whether it be in July, whether it be in August, whether it be September, whether it's in time for Christmas. And that's the time to start looking at when we could do it. It also gives us time to have a quiet word with the Christmas lights company and saying, if we wanted strings of lights up in the town, what would we be looking at for them to do that? Making sure we've got the bunting and the flags and that. But I think that might be a discussion, Madam Chairman, for the March meeting.
Absolutely. Charles, and then Sarah.
Could I just make a quick point about Councillor Voss's idea of hanging flags on the catenary wires? Obviously, the metal poles would have to stay up in Bridge Street because of the span of the street. And the only note of caution I would give you is that the flags themselves are of many sizes, of many different conditions. Some are not too bad, others are pretty tatty. This is why in recent years we've always tried to go for a mixture that's as colourful as possible. And, you know, hanging on a flagpole is one thing, but hanging down from a wire, bunting would give you uniformity. Actual flags, some would look quite impressive, others would look like a pocket handkerchief. And I just mentioned this in passing.
Thank you. Sarah, you're next.
I've actually been talking to Matt Coombs today regarding flags, because he warned us that the flagpoles, the Christmas lights, sorry, are coming down as of, I think it's the 18th of January, and they're getting turned off tomorrow at 2300 hours. And then he said, would you like us to leave them up in terms of decorating the town? And he sent this to Charles, myself, and Joe Baccanet. And I have to say that my response was, I think right now it's irresponsible to start decorating the town. We're in lockdown, and as soon as we can, we would do that. But in the best will in the world, just keep things up, and then I think you go into planning permission, etc. So he will be taking them down. And you're absolutely right. We have got boxes and boxes and boxes of bunting that we had for VJ days. So I think, or VD day, or whatever day it was. When it's time, then we can go to town. But I really genuinely don't recommend that we even think about it for some time yet, until we have a better idea of where we're going.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Voss.
Yeah, just to say, look, whether we use the traditional flags or whatever we do, I think, Charles, you use the word impressive. Whatever we do, at the point that we can do it, and Councillor Alcock is quite right, by our next meeting, we'll have a pretty good idea. We should aim to be impressive. Now, by then it might be too late to do the full weekend. So in terms of monies and expenditure, we're not going to be spending as much as we've done in previous years. So we have to have this in mind. We want to show that this town is exciting, interesting, it's attractive to visitors, it's something that residents can have pride in. So let's keep that word impressive in our mind and do whatever we can within the constraints of finance, time, and planning. And I bet that opens up a whole imagination that if we really want to, we could push hard to and create quite an impressive weekend, week, 2-3 weeks, whatever it is.
I agree.
Thank you, Councillor Voss. Okay, I think we've dealt with item 1. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss on that report? So are we all happy to note that report with the added extras that we've put on for birthday ideas? Yes? Yeah. Charles?
Just one quick point, Madam Chairman. Are members happy that we do not put the large pole up on the island?
Good point, yes. I certainly am. Can I have agreement that we are happy that we don't put the large pole? Thank you. I think that's you. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Let's move on now to item 2, the draft civic budget, to consider the civic budget requirements for 2021-2022 and advise the Finance and Scrutiny Committee Deputy Town Clerk. Members are requested to determine which of the events scheduled to take place during the first half of the year will remain viable if the pandemic continues. How are we going to approach this? Are any of them in the first half of the year going to remain viable?
No, sorry, you can't see me at the moment. My video's not on.
Are you going to say something, Victoria? We can't. Victoria?
Yes, I am here. Sorry, my video's off at the moment. Yes, I don't believe we can look at putting on any events for at least the first 6 months, if not probably 7 or 8 months before we can start thinking about welcoming crowds. I would say that we look at Remembrance Day. No, it's the mop first, isn't it?
Yeah.
So mop first, but that's whether or not we can have that on. And Remembrance Day, but I don't think we ought to be looking at putting anything on before that.
Okay. Charles.
Sorry, I think Councillor Mackenzie was before me.
I beg your pardon. Yes, Councillor Mackenzie.
I just want to agree with Victoria. Looking at the figures, by March, nobody under 70 will have been immunised. If you actually look at the numbers, if they're using those first 4 criteria, you know, people who are isolating and so on. So if, and they've got to get everybody immunised the second time. So if nobody under 70 has been immunised, it's going to be quite a long haul before we are really safe. So I just agree with Victoria. I think we're talking about much later in the year.
Okay. Charles, do excuse me. I'll take this phone somewhere else.
I'll carry on in Kate's disappearance. My video's back. Hello.
Can I just pick up the point Councillor Fradgley made, that a good feel event to sort of kick us off again would be Heritage Open Days in September. And I feel that that would be a really good opportunity, as you say, to showcase the RSC, SBT, the town, the river, and everything that's good about Stratford. And then following on from that, obviously, we've got the mop, which isn't really us. All we offer is a glass of sherry, but we obviously, the district council, I'm sure, will wholeheartedly support the mop if it's possible. And Remembrance Sunday, again, a very poignant occasion in the town. And, you know, another jolly event, the Christmas lights switch on at the end of November. So we've got a package there building up through the late autumn, hopefully in a time when things are much easier for everyone.
Councillor Voss and then Councillor Warren-Howes.
Yeah, agree about Heritage Open Days, and also great opportunity for the hotels. Many of them are historic. And once upon a time, I seem to remember the hotels such as the Shakespeare in Alveston Manor were involved in Heritage Open Days, Swan's Nest, with their historical connections. I would think if they've got any wit about them at all, the Indigo and similar, that they would be bursting at their seams to join in, sponsor, support, use it as a great marketing opportunity. So let's go big on that, entirely agree, and get them excited.
Councillor Warren-Howes.
Thank you, Chair. No, I was just going to repeat exactly what everybody else has said, really. I agree with Councillor Voss and what's gone before. I think we need to start with Heritage Day, absolutely. I don't think there's any, it's not safe to do it prior to that point. So I think that, yes, Heritage for the first weekend, and that point on, I think, yes. But no, before that point, I'm in disagreement. So I'd agree that starting that weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fradgley.
Just in case things don't go the way that we hope they're going to go, where we are going to have more freedom come the latter part of the year, I do think some of these things we need to think about, because we've been really inventive on virtual happenings as well, so that we can actually put something up on YouTube that Stratford is actually still here, alive and kicking. So I do think we need to just keep our minds open. You know, how would you do a virtual mop? How would you sort of recognise that as being an activity that the town's always been involved with? And that kind of thing. We did a terrific Remembrance Day. So I do think we just need to keep our mind on virtual as well as reality, but keep our fingers crossed for reality.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, just from a budgetary point of view, although I agree with everything we've said, and I think we will be slow coming out. From a budgetary point of view, I think we probably need to put the money in the budget that things will be back to normal quicker than they are. Because I think it's, I mean, Victoria Flynn will probably be better to advise here, but from a budgetary position, it's probably easier to have the money in the budget and not spend it rather than not have it in the budget and go along and ask for money because we've come out of lockdown quicker than expected. That's a
And I
so
think
I'm tempted to say plan for a normal year.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to Victoria Flynn. Exactly that. How do you want us to look at this?
Well, I think when we had the meeting, Kate, you and Charles and myself, we discussed an amount, didn't we? And we said that we would look to put in the budget between, I think, was it £3,000 and £5,000 for an event to open Stratford.
Yes, and I brought up the timing of sort of heritage, but I think what Mr. Mayor is saying is should we still keep a kind of a basic budget for as if it's all going to go ahead?
Well, I think so. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Is everybody happy about that? That we keep to the normal budget, if you like, and money can be carried over. Councillor Voss, did you want to?
I just made a comment on the chat that I agree with Councillor Fraggi, and I think it could be quite exciting to work with the schools and the colleges. Can you imagine if they devise, we did the Monopoly, or Monopoly did the Monopoly on the Stratford thing. Can you imagine if they didn't, and I'm not a gamer, so I know nothing about gaming, but can you imagine a mop game or a Shakespeare birthday game or something like that? It would be a project for them, stimulation, particularly at this time, and it could be very innovative and exciting. And who knows, it might be an opportunity for somebody to make a bit of money, for us to get a bit of revenue. I think this is about imagination and technology, and the two things that, frankly, we ain't got any more manufacturing. We're struggling with agriculture, let alone fishing, but technology, sorry, Jenny, technology and virtual commerce and opportunity, we're right there. And I think we could really engage with schools and colleges with some very bright young minds to design this opportunity. Always one door opening.
Okay, so going back to the draft civic budget, are we all in agreement that on the appendices we keep to what has been budgeted for and carry over anything that hasn't been spent, but we're mindful of doing some kind of event, heritage time, end of August, whatever, that we will put some money to that hasn't been spent? Yes. Are we all happy with that? Councillor Fradgley, and then
I was saying yes, I approve of that. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Charles.
To obviously some of the largest costs that we have with many of our events, of course, nowadays is security, traffic management, and the like. So clearly, if we were to leave the birthday budget but take out of it the security figure, first aid, traffic management, and obviously the £25,000 or whatever it is that we put into the pot, because clearly we're not going to spend that sort of sum of money 3 months hence, but leave the rest of the budget as it's proposed, but remove those sort of figures until we get to the end of the year. Would that not work?
Councillor Alcock, I think you're sort of disagreeing slightly.
I am, sorry, Charles. Yes, I am absolutely disagreeing with that. It's very, very difficult to take money out the budget one year to put it back in the next.
Okay.
So my recommendation, especially for something like the birthday celebration, leave the budget where it is. We're not going to be spending it. We are aware of that, but we will be spending some of it. And we're not the only people who put money into that pot. We need to make sure that the town council are the ones keeping money in there rather than try and claw it back again next year.
Okay, Sarah.
this isn't absolutely factual at this moment in time. I haven't had it confirmed at all, but I have a very nasty feeling that the district council may not be giving the same amount of financial assistance going forward. And I think if to safeguard the birthday celebrations, and also when we come out of this pandemic, there will be a national move to wanting to celebrate. And so I think the first thing that we put on, and it's going to be in 2022 and not 2021, as we needs to be impressive. So I think if we have the money that we can keep putting in the pot, it's just topping it up. Because I think you'll remember I've banged on about this for a long, long time, that our pot is becoming very, very, very slim. And we for the reason that we've had to pare back so much is because we haven't got the money. So I would recommend, if you would, to retain the budget for the birthday celebrations and carry it over, because it's going to be very necessary in 2022, especially if we don't get SDC money.
I agree with that. Do we have agreement with that amongst councillors? Anybody disagree? Okay, fine, thank you. Well, if you could make a note of that, Charles, that we agree to keep the budget for the birthday events as is, and it can always be carried over. Vic, is there anything else you want us to do in terms of budget?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it in the spreadsheet that Charles and I put together.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from anybody?
Yes. Are there any other questions for Vic? Can I just ask a question? When I looked through the appendices, I didn't see that we'd put in. Could you show me where, on which one we put in the 5,000 for something potentially in September? Or were we going to kind of claw that out of?
I think that was going to come from this meeting.
Okay, so can I then propose, council, that we set aside, say, £5,000 for something at the end of August, beginning of September, something around Heritage Open Days that we might be able to have a mini celebration. Is 5,000 enough? Would you like it less? Would you like it more? Can I have your thoughts on that, please?
I think we
Councillor Cleave.
Sorry, did Vic want to respond?
Vic, sorry.
The only reason I think we'd said £5,000 initially is because that was a sort of figure that we had put aside for VE Day. So the VE Day celebrations that we didn't have last year, we were sort of, was that right, Charles? We were basing that on
the party in the park aspect,
yes.
wasn't it? Yeah. Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, is that a 5,000 in addition to, so we've still not out of the birthday parade money? That's separate.
So it would be a
separate amount. And did we have
additional?
Okay.
Yes, it is additional. So did we, the money that we put aside for VE Day and VJ Day, have we carried that over?
No, I believe that went
back. So yeah, I think that if we do need to do something if we're able to, by the end of the August bank holiday, at the end of the month, if we're able to at that point to do something. So I think 5,000 seems like, if that's the budget we put for VE Day, then that's obviously something we, as a budget, we looked at and seemed reasonable. So I think that's a fair amount to put in.
Councillor Alcock.
This committee, through the years, has always been able to do what the other committees can't, and that is have a little pot of money for the unexpected. No other committee's spending committee's been allowed to do that. They have to keep theirs very much strict. But we've always been allowed to, because we do have the unexpected events, whether they be for the Olympic gold winner, whether it be for we did the one for
James Rowe.
Thank you.
Same vote, that's right.
Sorry, my brain really isn't working. So we've always been able to have that pot of money without having to name it. Can I suggest we ask for the £5,000 to be our unplanned events contingency? So it is there for whatever we need it to be, whether it's in the summer, whether it's in the autumn, or whether it's towards Christmas time.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I fully support that. When we do come out of lockdown and we want an event, we want to spend money and do something. I'm personally, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. It's £5,000 in addition to the full budget that we're carrying forward. So I'm hopeful actually that what would happen is some of the events will be cancelled and we'll have money that we can spend that £5,000. You mentioned the unplanned pot, Councillor Alcock. Is there already an unplanned pot in the budget, and how much is in there? So in which case, if there's already £5,000 in that pot, we don't need to do anything because it's already there in the budget that we are carrying forward.
Thank you. Sorry, Sarah.
I believe that there is contingencies in every budget now. Am I not right, Vic, that we have contingencies?
There would be a small percentage. I think Phil would have to clarify how much.
I think it's 5%, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think there is that provision for unforeseen eventualities, which, as Councillor Alcock says, it happens with this committee more than any other, because we have to react. We have to react within 4 days, to put an event on, and we've done that with James Rowe. But I do think that there is a contingency in the budget, so we will need to check on that. Well, we haven't got the information right now, but we'll look at that tomorrow. Okay, so can I go back to the £5,000 though? I mean, can it be put into the budget anyway? Because as Sarah said, come 2022, when everybody is jumping up and down wanting to celebrate, it's there and can be put towards the events. Councillor Alcock.
Sorry, it is in the budget. Contingency including events, there is £5,000 already in. Obviously from this year, from the 19-20-21, very little of that has been spent. So in that could almost top it up for the one for next year. Because that's the one I'm looking at the moment.
Which appendix are you looking at, Councillor Alcock?
I
C or D?
Looking at, bear with me, and I'll just tell you it's not that one.
A, B, C or D?
Hang on. I'm looking at D. Appendix D I'm looking at. It's at the very bottom of page 3 of 3. It's at the very bottom of it.
Oh yes, you're absolutely right. It's
and it is there. We've always had it, so I knew it had to be there.
Charles.
Could I just make a point? As Heritage Open Days obviously didn't happen last year, any money that was around that we were going to use, because VE Day wasn't an actual cost for us at all. So there is, there have been savings in the last year through no fault of our own. But we knew Heritage Open Days were not going to happen as soon as we went into lockdown because they were cancelled.
Vic Flynn, can I please ask your advice on what you think we should do, whether we put £5,000 in the budget or whether we use anything that hasn't been spent or we use the contingency? What's your thoughts?
So on the next point, you've put, Charles has, it is therefore recommended that the sum of £5,000 is confirmed as the designated reserve requirement. So are you saying then that this money would be for the celebration and then have an additional 5,000 in the budget?
Well, this is the question I'm asking. Charles is inferring that there could be even more money sort of carried forward, in which case it would cover the 5,000 and cover the contingency.
I think we'd have to ask Phil to confirm with money carried forward. I'm a bit nervous about saying then that you would carry money forward from today.
Okay, Sarah.
Our policy is that we don't carry forward unless it's absolutely specifically ring fenced, and anything that is not spent goes back into reserves. And bearing in mind how often you're having to call on your reserves, unless the Finance and Scrutiny Committee or whatever the Finance and Asset Committee change that policy, that is the policy as it stands at the moment. So I think if the £5,000 contingency is there already, then there's no need to add any more.
No.
And if all the money that we're saving is going back into reserves, it's not as if it's not as if we're losing it. Like if you don't use it, you lose it. We don't lose it; it goes into reserves.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I was going to say exactly what Sarah just said. Yeah. We don't spend more money. We don't carry it forward. We just don't lose as much this year, and we've already got the 5,000 in the contingency. We're carrying that budget forward to next year, so we don't need to put any additional money into the budget. Is my view. Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that? That we do not put 5,000 into the budget, and that we use a contingency if necessary.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Let's move on to item 3, which is the town hall tariffs, which is Appendix E. Vic, do you want to give us a sort of background to this, if you can?
So I think we're just saying that they are to go up with inflation, but obviously at the moment there are no bookings. It's very sad, but obviously with the lockdown and the tiers, I don't think now we've got a wedding booked really until the summer. And currently the town hall is being decorated. And one of the things I was thinking when I was actually reading this, that when we are all decorated, like with the Heritage Days, maybe we can have some professional photographs taken of the town hall. It's all been revamped, like a business would, a hotel, our town hall is now open and all beautiful.
Councillor Voss, thank you, Vic.
Thanks, Vic. Singing from my song sheet there. I think that's absolutely right. I think this year, we don't need to muck around with the tariff. Inflation increase, keep it as it is. It isn't going to make a lot of difference. What we will be doing, I believe, or should be doing, is looking beyond to 2022. Councillor Howes and myself did start a very small project. We kind of ground to a halt, and I know she's absolutely desperate to start that project or re-kickstart that project again. I sound like, look, Boris, we're absolutely desperate now to start that project again and to look at how we can maximize our revenue through weddings and celebrations and events. And that, as I say, will be 2022 onwards. So I think we should take that on board and have a look at that, have a look at, as Vic says, everything from a professional package to how we structure the tariff, to how we present the tariff, everything we should look at, because we're going to have this uniquely fantastic product just waiting, and people are going to start. They're desperate. Look at the events they haven't been able to hold. I suspect that come 2022, demand is going to be high. So we should look at it like a hotel or a venue and go down that line. So I'm looking now directly at Councillor Howes, and I'm saying, if you want to have a go at, regenerating that work that we did, updating it, Vic, happily talk to you, of course, about that and all the sort of implications and ramifications. I think there's a great opportunity. But for now, I'd recommend, yes, inflation.
Just inflation.
And then move on, and we'll talk about that later in the year.
That's lovely. So getting to talking about it later on in the year, shall we say our September meeting, we perhaps look at increasing the costs?
Yeah, I think we can do some work.
This year, sorry, not next year.
No. We can do some work in advance in it, some presentations, some style. Vic is quite right. Photographs, brochures, how we market, how we push it. So we can perhaps do that towards mid and end of summer as well. And if Councillor mentions funeral fairs.
Okay, so can we move on? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cleeve.
Oh, I was just going to say again, if we're allowed, when we're allowed, and obviously the town hall's done, could we also maybe have a launch party for it and just open it up and have put on refreshments and all sorts of things to actually show it off? Is one thing taking photos, and we do need obviously good photos, but just launch it to the public, to the locals especially, make it a big event.
Like an open.
Well, it could be part of the heritage.
Yeah, so it could be part, or that bank holiday weekend.
Because we normally set up the ballroom as a wedding, and it all looks absolutely glorious.
But
so it could be part of that.
So it could be part of the heritage, but also the bank holiday weekend, maybe have a big launch.
Okay, perfect. So are we happy with that? We look at it again in September. Yes, thank you very much, councillors. Let's move on to item 4, nominated designated reserve requirement. To agree the nominated designated reserve. Vic, could you fill us in on that one, please? A little bit of background.
So really then, this is to discuss the £5,000 that we're putting aside for our event then for September.
Okay.
So we would use the nominated reserve, the £5,000.
Absolutely. Everybody is happy about that. Fine. We'll move on then. Item 5, SIL projects, to determine and recommend any potential SIL projects. Sarah, do you want to give us a little bit of background to this, please?
Yes, it's in your terms of reference, which was one of the reasons that it was included on the agenda. However, if you'll recall at the last town council meeting, the SIL money that we've accrued is going towards the redesigns of the 3 redesigns for Bridge Street. So this is really just a report to note.
Thank you very much. Everybody, any questions around that report? Mr. Mayor.
I agree entirely with that. I think it's worth looking ahead. We need to start having a priority list of other projects that we want to spend the SIL money on. So it's obviously not urgent at the moment because we've decided that the priority is the town centre. But going forward, longer term, when we've got more SIL money in the pot and we've got a list of projects, we need to have a list of which projects we prioritise. So that's just an ongoing thing to review in a way. Yeah.
Thank you. Now I've got 9.6 on my agenda. It's not in the town clerk's report, but it's to determine additional suitable income streams for the town hall. So I'm going to leave this open for discussion. Any thoughts, councillors, on suitable income streams? Councillor Alcock.
I know that from when I was working with the income group with the town hall, craft fairs were always very, very popular at the town hall. Almost most weekends, especially on the run up to November, we'd have craft fairs on. I would like to have a proper study done while we have this opportunity on which are the events that actually bring the profit to the town hall. So craft fairs, it just means we open the doors and we have to have members of staff there. Obviously for other things, weddings, we have laundry costs as well on top of that. It all comes down to advertising, but not advertising in what I call a shotgun fashion. Not trying to hit everybody at every point of who might ever possibly want to hire a venue. It's targeting it. So it could be targeting it into weddings and parties and those sorts of events. Or we could look at targeting the markets, or look at targeting concerts, plays, things like that, rather than us trying to go, well, we're open, we're going to be opening again, who wants a big room to hire? And it is about targeting it. Now, I don't actually know, because I don't think we got to the end of the comparison on the costs of putting on things like large weddings and the costs of having being open all weekend with a staff member, etc. So that does need to be looked at, so we can actually see which are the events that actually bring in us revenue, and those are the ones to target in a campaign, in a proper advertising campaign.
And I think that's probably very timely with perhaps the launch of the beautiful newly decorated town hall, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor Fradgley.
I don't know whether this is actually to bring revenue in, but we have a town that's actually dying on its feet for the knock it's had from COVID, and it's really got to think about how it diversifies, because it's actually it's been a little bit complacent in the past. I think the town centre needs to really think about it. Can we actually do something with the town hall when we can to promote small local businesses? Is there anything that we could use a town hall for some sort of very small local business promotion?
It's a very good thought. I mean, but it wouldn't bring in income necessarily, would it?
It might bring vitality to some parts of the town, but I think it's probably more of a duty that we need to be looking at rather than an income stream. So,
okay, Councillor Voss.
Yeah, I think all these points are right. You need to have a proper structure and a proper marketing plan here. I can see Councillor Warnhouse looking at me in a knowing way now. A proper marketing plan and a proper structure, and we would look at not high, medium, low demand calendars when we wanted to let the town hall for commercial gain, when we wanted to let it for community. We've talked about this before and it kind of ground to a halt. When we want to give it pro bono, what sort of events we want to attract. Do we want to run a business open day for small businesses? All these kind of things go into a mix. So I would think we're smelling a task and finish group here, aren't we? Where we can put ourselves together and use the expertise and experience we have. Particularly, again, coming back to we are going to have the most fantastic product inside and outside, and we need to use that for the best and for the right reasons. So, we don't have to come up with income streams now. We just have to work out how we're going to manage this process with the task and finish group. Thank
you. Sarah.
I totally agree with Councillor Voss. I think you've got to determine exactly what you want your town hall to be used for. At the moment, when I get the analysis of not at the moment because there's no point, but when I used to get a weekly sheet of saying what was happening in the town hall and who was on duty, etc., and how much we were making from that, all I ever saw on that right-hand column was FOC, 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 FOC. It was always free of charge. It was unbelievably weighted in that direction, which is fair enough if that's what you're determining it's the village hall and people can use it. But in terms of actually sort of making income for the town hall, it was zilch. It was zero, and we have to bring somebody in. So actually, I would say that we were running at a loss always. And as you say, we're going to have hopefully a very posh and lovely town hall. And I think it's the strategy that the task and finish group need to come up with, first of all, is to actually determine how much is going to be commercial and how much is going to be free of charge, because at the moment it is one way and one way only.
I would absolutely agree with you there, Sarah, and you brought up a very good analogy about the village hall. Even village halls charge a minimum amount, but they charge. And I've always thought that all the community organisations that we allow to use the town hall free, I mean, and admirable though it is, you know, even a small set amount would help, hugely help. And I think, yes, I think you're right. It's a task.
If I could just come back on that, Madam Chairman, if things are free, they are often undervalued.
Yes, I would agree with that. Councillor Fradgley, did you?
Sorry, no.
Oh, it's a historic hand, is it?
It's a heritage.
One of those first historic hand of the year. Excellent. So do we think a task and finish group? I mean, I don't think it's something we start this month or even in the next 2 or 3 months, but something that we can perhaps start in the spring.
Can I just say, I think late spring, possibly, given the fact that we are going to have a pretty frenetic April and early May, we know why after that would be a good idea. And we'll start seeing and be clear about what the town hall looks like. All of those things will go together. And I'd be happy, because I keep mouthing off about it, to be part of that and to bring my professional background and experience in terms of events and celebrations and managing that to get into that. So I'm very happy to
okay, so I think the task and finish group should be opened up to all council, not just this committee. So can I suggest, Charles, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps sometime round about April time, you ask the town council who would be prepared to sit on a task and finish group to look at ways of suitable income streams for the town hall. Sorry, Councillor Alcock.
Sorry, Madam Chairman. I do understand why delaying might be a better idea, but actually it's now that you've got the opportunity, while the town hall's not in use, to actually look at the statistics, look how often we were giving it free of charge, look at the cost of weddings and look at the cost it gave to the town hall as a whole. Yes, we can say looking at April, May time because people won't be booking weddings. No, they won't. But I do know of several people who are just waiting for the time that they can book their 50th birthday party, their 60th birthday party, their daughter's sweet 16 birthday party. People will be jumping at the opportunity to book somewhere like the town hall to make up for all these parties they've missed in lockdown. So I don't think that delaying is the correct thing to do. I actually think it's something that ought to be looked at, discussed, and ideas come forward before we get to springtime. Because by the springtime, when people start going, right, you can have bigger parties from August, we will be inundated with people looking to book, and we're still trying to figure out what tariff to have.
I thought we said that we would look at tariffs come for 22.
Yeah.
We going?
Yeah, okay, but we'd still be looking at what sort of events we want to do, but we have to be ready to jump at that point. Okay. We have to be ready because other people are going to be ready. So I think that possibly starting it earlier, so that we know the type of events we want to be happening, and we know whether or not to accept the business who used to book up every other weekend of the town hall for a craft fair, whether or not we ought to be looking at that long-term booking and instead saying, actually, we're not taking those types of bookings now. Or we need to look at the ones who want to be holding their meetings every afternoon on a Monday. and think about whether or not these are not cost effective for the town hall, but how could we look at making them that way?
Okay, Councillor Franchi and then Sarah Summers.
I actually think to start the strategy, not just the tariffs, but actually we have actually talked about strategy. Richard was saying, you know, what's the proportion of the renting out of the hall should we be looking at, and are we looking at any new businesses to bring into it? I think that probably is something to start doing within the next couple of weeks, so that strategy is well thought out, well communicated, and then it kind of flows from there as and when, is my view.
Sarah.
I agree. It's all about strategy, and I think that's what the council is for. You give the strategic direction, and we carry it out. So I would agree that you can start looking at the strategy almost immediately. What do you want to do with your town hall?
Yeah.
And then once you've got that, then the analysis can follow, and the fee structure will automatically follow thereafter.
Yeah.
But the strategy now and the fee structure at a later date.
Can it be the same group? Because it would have to be the same group if you're setting the strategy and then setting the costs, etc. I have. Do I have any? Mr. Mayor, did you want to say something?
Just to say that same people, we did agree that we would open up to all councillors. So whatever we do, we need to ask for councillors. But you're right, it needs to be the same group looking at strategy and cost. Yeah.
May I just make the point that when you put a task and finish group together, it's always open to the whole of the town council. That's a policy.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Fradgley.
I just want to say we're very lucky on this town council. I think we've got a number of councillors with hard business experience who will be able to bring those skills, because I do think this is a skills-based task and finish group. So I will not be offering to sit on it. Okay, so can we look at timings of this? Councillor Voss.
Yeah, just to say, I think Councillor Warren Howes wanted to speak as well. I think my view would be just broadly this year, you know, we take whatever comes our way, but the serious strategy and the serious business and commercial stuff starts from next year. I'm a little worried that although we seem to have a lot of time at the moment, and I agree, the sooner you do things, the better. But from what we're seeing from the chat, a lot of our time is going to be used up at the moment with Stratford support, with other committee meetings, other task and finish. So I'm not entirely sure that we should rush into this too soon. I think we need to do it properly, slowly, in a considered way. And if that means that for the rest of the year, whenever we manage to let events, we take those on the chin, I wouldn't be too worried about that. This has got to be a long-lasting strategy that has perhaps a 5-year life in it.
Before I bring in Councillor Warren Howes, can I suggest we split the difference? The first suggestion was May. Councillor Alcock suggested within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Can I suggest the middle of March? How does that suit people? Councillor Warren Howes wants to say something. Councillor Warren Howes, yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Well, it's a bit of a strange question, really. The vaccination centres, do they get paid to utilise premises at all? Does anybody know?
I would imagine the RSC are not letting out their premises for free.
No, I just wondered if we have enough vaccination centres. You know, whether in fact we could possibly utilise the town hall for helping with the vaccination. I don't know whether
the problem with the town hall, and we have discussed this before, is the in and out. There's no separate exit of the town hall, and the one thing that the other place can do is create an entrance and an exit 2 meters apart.
Okay, disregard that idea then.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. I think we have thought about doing something in the town hall like that before. So, councillors, can we agree? Did anyone else want to speak? I do apologise. can we agree and split the difference to start a task and finish group round about mid-March? Sarah.
This is slightly off the agenda, but it is very relevant to what we're talking about. And one of the reasons that the town hall is difficult for us right now is because, as you say, we've only got one entrance and one egress, which is the front. But actually, of course, we do have a fire escape, which isn't very sexy, but it actually exists. And right now we have decorators in the town hall, and we only sort of paint down to the next stair level from my entrance up to my office. And I was just thinking to myself, and I know it's stairs, so it is limiting in its exit, because it's not available to everybody. And I see that Elizabeth is here. So, but is it an opportunity that we perhaps should enhance that exit so that when we're holding things, when we do need to leave the town, I mean, it's the backyard that's caused all this problem. Yeah. We didn't have this problem before, but we do have it now. And there just seems to be a little bit of a get out of jail card in making that exit more attractive than it is currently.
Agree.
Do councillors agree on that perhaps we should, Councillor Fradgley?
I've always thought that, Sarah. Whenever I've used that back stair, I've always thought, why on earth don't we decorate this and make it a place where people don't mind being and it looks safe? I think that's a brilliant idea.
Councillor Cleeve?
Yeah, I was just about to say the same, because we used that as the entrance for Santa's Grotto last Christmas. Yeah. And when I was decorating that one, I just thought, that was sort of the first impression of the children coming in. And it would have been so nice to have it, once they get upstairs, it's fine. So to decorate it, give it a lick of paint, as you say. Yeah, to do something would be nice. And then, yes, we could potentially utilize that a little bit more. Again, obviously from an accessible point of view, it's not ideal. But if people are using it, need accessible access, we can create the entrance and exit and make sure nobody else is coming in or out while someone needs to get to exit if necessary.
So, Sarah, are you saying that perhaps that the decorators that are currently in the town hall should be asked sort of how much it's going to cost? I mean, whilst they're there.
Yeah, I'm seeing them tomorrow. Okay. So I can ask them, and if you're all in agreement here, if it's within my designated power to pass it as expenditure, then possibly I would. I'm not talking anything huge. I'm just talking paint, really. So it's. I'm not saying let's carpet it throughout, but you don't know. It's as Councillor Fradgley said. It's a waste of now our only other exit out of the building apart from the front door.
And as Hilda Ogden said, we could put a mural up there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I want flying ducks up there, Councillor.
Yeah, she had those as well. Okay, councillors, so we're agreed to for Sarah to do that under her delegated powers. And can I just go back to agreement of a task and finish group starting round about the middle of March, and Charles asking councillors who would like to be on that group. Is that okay with everyone? Thank you very much. Right, it's 7:35. I think we've come to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. The next meeting is on Tuesday, the 16th of March, 2021 at 6 o'clock. And I guess it will be on Zoom like it is now. Thank you very much. Hope you all have a good rest of your evening and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.